No, I don't agree, because they have been given the highest. Why would they want to be immune from being prosecuted on issues of corruption? They have been given the trust by Kenyans. They have been elected to those highest offices. They must prudently use the resources that we have. And we have seen in the first generation of governors that there were so many issues of misuse and abuse of office powers and resources that we have. I don't think it is prudent to give immunity to the governors in civil and criminal proceedings. Those are exclusive given to the president. And therefore, I think governors, what they should be saying is that they should be ready to assist in the fight against corruption. Because if at the end of the day, if they are personally involved in corruption, they are the CEOs of the counties. If we allow that to happen, they will throw the country into unprecedented, because they, you know, in fact, some of the cases, like the case, so I think they were officials of Nyeri, where the CECs and other county officials were convicted. The issue of Bungoma, where the CECs and some of the senior county officials were convicted. Some of the decisions that are made by the CECs, CEOs, and other senior county officials in procurement and accounting offices is based on the instruction of the governors. So what the governors should do is not to concentrate on the issue of immunity. What they should be concentrating in ensuring that they ensure they implement, they assist, because the agenda and objects and principles of devolution under Article 174 was to ensure we devolve and ensure development goes as lowest as possible to the villages. And it is good the Member of Parliament, Mheshimiwa Chris, would be interested to run for governor in 2022. These are things I hope he will not be making before Kenyans, saying immune me from doing corruption. Why are you premeditating? Why are you imagining that you want to perform corruption? So you want to...
Did you see anything wrong in the manner in which Governor Sospito was
the issue now, and I think
that probably him having to spend 2 nights behind bars is probably why the governors are feeling a bit uncomfortable?
No, in fact, I want to thank the members of parliament, because I think there is a motion where because in this country I've realized we nowadays have 2 forms of punishment. Now the police wait until Friday, they pounce on you. They ensure you stay within Friday to Monday. It is a way of punishment where is the presumption of innocence. And in fact, the former Chief Justice, and I think this is a clarion call to the current Chief Justice David Maraga, the former Chief Justice William Mutunga had even issued guidelines where even if you are arrested on Saturday or Sunday, the OCS or CPD or OCPD could give you bond or bail. That is why now, in fact, that's why we need to agree, because it's like we are starting another system of punishment.
Although
vis-a-vis
Governor Ojamong was arrested on a Wednesday and released on a Friday.
No, but nowadays,
do you have any problem with how that issue was handled in the treatment?
No, I agree. You know, what is the fair hearing, what the Constitution has provided for, and the issue of presumption of innocence should be, because it is under the Bill of Rights, Chapter 4 of the Constitution. So, in as much as you have been arrested as a suspect, that one does not mean you are guilty, and therefore presumption and fair hearing, it is part of fair hearing, where our investigative agencies, the DPP must be always on point to ensure that we don't, and if at the end of the day, if you prosecute, for example, Ojamong or anybody else, and you don't find them guilty, and yet you have undertaken them through the punishment. So our worry, and I hope the MPs will fast track that discussion of motion to ensure that the police does not, in fact, we agree 100% as a parliament for fight against corruption. But we should not use the way, for example, finally, for example, what the police are doing in this country. Now with the issue of fighting against corruption, the issues of sugar, nowadays they can just walk into your kiosk and say the sugar you are selling, the cooking oil you are selling, the matchbox you are selling is a contraband, and yet they don't have the ability of knowing which is a contraband or not, because they are not kept or caring.
And probably this is where the governors are coming from, the way we saw Governor Sospito Ojamong being treated by security forces, the fact that he was handcuffed from the Integrity Center, being bundled into a vehicle. We saw him being frog marched with the officers holding him from the belt. This is a sitting governor. If the assumption is he's innocent until proven guilty, then he's taken to court, arraigned, then has to spend 2 nights in police custody. Probably that's where the governors are coming in, saying, for the kind of status I enjoy as a governor right now, probably you should not be taking me through such. You have ambitions of becoming a county boss, a governor. Do you agree with them?
Yes, of course, I have ambitions to become the governor of the great people of Trans Nzoia County, God willing, in 2022. First and foremost, I want to, it's very unfortunate, the utterances from my friend Nanok in terms of the issues of impunity. I think we strongly believe that choices have consequences, and if at all a governor has been involved in one way or another, must be able to face the law. The issue of impunity in this case should not be the case. But coming to the issue of Ojamong, of course the principle of innocent till proven guilty, it is outlined in the fundamental rights of every Kenyan. The way he was handled, and this is something that IG must be listening. The way the police handle Ojamong, of course Ojamong is a governor who has been elected by the great people of Busia. In any case, he was not running away. I didn't see the way he was being frog-marched. You know, you're not running away. You also have your own security. The honorable thing is just allow the governor to go there. And I've not seen these things happening to other culprits, like the issue of Solai Dam. I expected the same to have been done, maybe to those Patel Dam, but I didn't see them. They were just free. They went to, they presented themselves in the police. So I'm sure Ojamong was not running away. Ojamong was, in fact, the best of my knowledge, he's willing to take himself there. So I don't see why this drama, where you find police coming in many Land Rovers to arrest somebody who is already willing to go there.
Do you think that that's what the governors want to be protected from?
No, from the way Governor Nanoko has said, he's talking of impunity. I mean immunity. Yeah. He's not talking of that decorum. And if it's an issue to do with the decorum, the way you should be handled, it's not just the governor. Even to a common mwananchi, any Kenyan, the principle of innocent until proven guilty, it applies across the board. Whether you're a governor, whether you're a member of parliament, or even whether you're a mamamboga. The way the police are handling suspects, it's not the best thing. When you go to Uganda, I mean Tanzania, you know the way the police have been handled, the way they've been trained. A policeman will request you, naomba tuambatane, twende wapi? Kwa polisi. But in this case, you find the policemen, they want to be seen that they are working, going to harass people left, right, center. And to me, again, we are also entitled to bail. And somebody who has been arrested, even the police, the OCS, they have those powers to give even police bond. You should not just punish somebody just because he's a governor or wherever he is. These issues are the fundamental rights under our Bill of Rights in our Constitution. So the issue is this, the regulations, how the police should carry themselves when they are arresting a suspect. And whatever applies across the board should not just be treated differently. I've seen many businessmen, suspects. For example, the Rai, when you're talking about the sugar problem, Rai has been a suspect in this case because a lot of the sugar that has been banned in this country, or the one that is purported to have mercury or whatever, has been found in Rai paper, in pan paper. And I've not seen this person, even the DCI going for him to maybe to record statements. Instead, I saw him hugging members of parliament who are trying to, when he was appearing before parliament. Personally, I'm a parliamentarian, and I think it was very, very wrong for Rai to come there and you start hugging members of parliament. That is very, very wrong. It's like a judge in court, someone is a suspect is appearing before you, and you are seeing a judge coming and hugging this person. Who is this Rai?
And now that you've brought it up, it also features on the headlines today because Raila Odinga spoke about it yesterday during that funeral of the late Senator for Migori, Ben Oluoch Okello. On page 8 of the Standard, let experts investigate corruption, says Raila. Former Premier says Parliament does not have powers to conduct a thorough probe. It is still a big question. That report by the Joint Committees of Trade and Agriculture was thrown out by Parliament. Now they've been given more time. But the kind of conduct and the fact that probes of Parliament, committees of Parliament have been accused over and over of actually being used to sanitize some of these suspects, that some of these probes conducted by Parliament are inconsequential because they are of no consequence. Should we really still be looking at to Parliament to investigate any of these big scandals? According to Raila Odinga, he feels no. Parliament should just stay away from such and probably focus on other things. Let the DCI and the EACC probably do their job.
I think of course, Parliament is an independent institution, just like judiciary and the government. Number one. Number two is I want to agree that MPs did not do justice to Kenyans, because what we needed, let me use that example, was one, we needed a statement that says, was the sugar Kenyans put in their tea, just like this, is safe? The answer was not supposed to be definite, yes or no. The PS in charge of health, Engineer Tum, was very categorical that the sugar that was in the country was not safe for human consumption. It was more of industrial use. I want to agree with Chris Wamalwa. Kenyans were shocked that some of the suspects were being excited and hugging and smiling with some of the people who should be investigated in some
You're
of these
talking
issues.
about your colleagues in parliament, yeah?
Yeah, of course. I, with a lot of due respect to them, that they did not do justice to that report, and I think I agree largely with what the former Prime Minister said, that in as much as Parliament is an independent institution, we need some of these institutions like DCI, EACC, they should also have done their work, and CID, they should have, because also there is a level which Parliament can go to. They cannot, in enforcement, they don't have that ability of enforcing. They can just make recommendations, just like when we were doing in Senate on the Talai justice, on historical injustice on Talai clans in Kericho and Nandi. The report that came to the Senate through my committee, we just adopted the report and their only recommendations. So there is a level where Parliament can reach in terms of ensuring that there is an enforcement aspect. But because the agencies that have enforcement aspect, as the DCI, the CID, the EACC, the courts of law, that is now we should take up. I've seen the ANC leader said we need judicial inquiry into the issue of sugar, surrounding sugar. Those are some of the other options that we have on the table to ensure that we look into this matter deeply. Yeah. Because that timeline that Parliament was also given, parliamentary committee, was very short. But the problem on sugar importation in this country is so deep-rooted that we need radical recommendations. And you know, for some of us who grow sugar, where now Chemelil is having problems, even some parts of Masao, some parts of Tindred is nucleus, part of Kisumu County, the Moroni and Nyando constituencies are part of the nucleus of Chemelil, for example. We as farmers who grow sugar, some of our regions is that, and I think Trans Nzoia have some level of planting of sugar. Yeah. We need radical proposals, and therefore I think there could be two reasons why the parliamentary group did not give us justice on that issue, is because of the timeline that they were given, the enforcement aspect, but we expected them to give what we call radical, heart-shaking recommendations, like saying, for example, let's withdraw all the license from anybody who imports sugar, even if it is 1 kilo. Even if we find you bringing 1 kilo from Brazil, you should be impounded in the airport. And those are some of the recommendations that we expected.
Honorable Chris Wamalwa, do you think that whatever process or processes that Parliament undertook had the potential to actually interfere with the wider investigations being carried out by the DCI? Remember, whatever Parliament did was carried out, beamed on live TV, the kind of exchanges and even the images of MPs exchanging pleasantries with some of the witnesses, that all that had the potential to actually interfere with the real and proper investigations carried out by the DCI, which could have actually ended up in court?
Under Article 125 of the Constitution, parliamentary committees have powers like the powers of the High Court. And when a matter is under investigation under parliamentary committee, when you look at our standing orders, the parliamentary committee must be able to complete that particular investigation, whatever it is, then they must table the report on the floor of the House. Then, once that report has been debated, and plenary has powers to veto, plenary has also powers to amend. So once that has passed, then it becomes adopted. Then it can be implemented towards when you go to the committee of implementation. But in this case, about the sugar report, that report, you want to make it clear that it was a preliminary report. It was not a conclusive report. But now, when you look at this, the way the committee conducted itself, maybe on the issue, particularly I was not comfortable when I saw on dailies the members of parliament are hugging Rai, who was a key suspect in this case, because in his go-downs in Webuye, that sugar was found. And I also want the public to note, it was through a question by Honorable Esuda. And the critical issue was to know whether the sugar Kenyans were consuming was safe. Here there were two phases. There are two phases of sugar here, which we want people to know. And in this country, we know sugar has been used in terms of funding elections. It's been a quick way of making money. So the two levels of sugar, the sugar on the shelf and the sugar that was somewhere in go-downs. But I looked at that report keenly. Personally, much that it never made the threshold, but there was that element of time frame. And that's why the Speaker had given them 10 days. So for us to be conclusive, we want to wait for that report, particular report, that we are going to debate. That report was just a progress report to tell us how far they've gone. But the report is not yet out for it to be that conclusive. But looking at that report, when I went through it, I saw that they focus on the sugar that is in warehouses. It has not yet gone to the shelves. They should have gone further, maybe to start doing random sampling of the sugar that we have in the shelves in the supermarkets, because that's what people are consuming. This is where we miss the point. That's why I'm saying, let's give them the 10 days or whatever it is. They bring up a conclusive report so that we'll be able to debate that report. And in case of anything that is shady, we are going to veto that report. Just a second. Again, a parliamentary committee has no powers, particularly when it comes to analysis of the content of that sugar. The only body that can be able to do that in this country is the government chemist. And as a committee of parliament, you give recommendations, maybe for further analysis by the government chemist. And again, a parliamentary committee, you can also invite. You can invite the ESCC or the DPP, whatever it is, to come and also listen, to come and be before the committee to listen on the submissions, because Parliament doesn't have that capacity, you know. And we are free to give recommendations maybe for further investigations by the, let's say, like the DCI, the government agencies like the government chemists. So what we are doing here, this parliamentary committee is not that conclusive. Let's wait for the full complete report to come in. That's why we could not debate.
Because matters to do with even NYS, as far back as NYS, what we call now NYS Season 1, which was probed quite elaborately with the Public Accounts Committee of the National Assembly, beamed live on TV, ended up inconsequential. We never got any conviction. No one was ever held to account for NYS Season 1. At least Season 2, people were still
we can't say it was inconsequential because
it's the question of the capacity of Parliament and how necessary are these probes by committees of Parliament. Because according to even Raila Odinga, he feels probably it's a waste of time what committees of Parliament are engaging in. We should just probably let it leave it to the DCI and ESCC to conduct their work. Senator, don't you think that some of this work done by Parliament could actually end up being a distraction to the wider investigation into corruption?
I don't think, I think what you are trying to say is whether Parliament is duplicating its role with investigative agencies. The Constitution has given Parliament quasi-judicial mechanisms in its work, and they have power to investigate, even to summon, and that is why you saw when some of the witnesses failed to appear before some of these committees, the Parliament has powers, or committees has powers to summon them or write them summonses. What I agree with Mheshimiwa is that Parliament can only make recommendations and further investigation, invite agencies that are dealing with. But what I want to say is that is not the reason as to why multi-agencies should not continue probing the issue of issues of sugar. Because of course I agree the ability of the issue of analysis, chemist analysis, the issue of probing maybe a forensic audit and many others, sometimes are with the DCI. So the further the Parliament can go is on the aspect of only making recommendations or further, or inviting agencies to proceed, because the Parliament has its own role as a people's watchdog. That one does not mean they are duplicating any role. That one does not mean that they are prevented EACC or DPP. In fact, the DPP is ongoing with investigations, the DCI is ongoing with investigations, the EACC are investigating the same issue, but it is not a duplication per se, because the Constitution has given quasi-judicial. And therefore, some of these recommendations also, on the other side, you have to notice is that some of these recommendations we are talking about can also assist Parliament in future in issues of policy and legal framework, or any amendments that might come. Some of these reports can form the primary basis on making legal recommendations, on making legal acts amendments in the Parliament, and also on policy framework. So we should not just wish away saying the recommendations being made by Parliament is not necessary. It is necessary because after these investigations, I know parliamentarians can now have an opportunity, because that is the time they look at the acts that govern some of these aspects of importation, the issue of KRA laws, the issue of fight against corruption, and many other. So it can allow even Parliament to have a primary document to look at as they come with the amendments, or as they come even with money legislations in going forward.